Have you ever thought about who Moaning Myrtle really was? What if she wasn't just an annoying ghost haunting a school bathroom, but a tragic soul with a heartbreaking past? In today's video, you will uncover the hidden story of Myrtle Warren, one filled with pain, loneliness, and a fate worse than death. At first glance, Moaning Myrtle seems like comic relief. She whines, wails, and sulks in the bathroom, scaring students and throwing tantrums. But her story is anything but funny. Born into a Muggle family, Myrtle faced relentless bullying from the moment she set foot in Hogwarts. Her thick glasses and troubled skin made her an easy target. She had no friends, no support, only taunts and whispers behind her back. Then, one fateful day, her suffering took a deadly turn. In 1943, the legendary Chamber of Secrets was opened, unleashing the monster hidden within. While most feared the unknown terror stalking the school, Myrtle became its first victim. But was it really just the basilisk that ended her life, or was there something far more sinister at play? Myrtle died alone, mocked and ridiculed even in her final moments. But her story didn't end there. Instead of moving on, she returned, trapped as a ghost, forever bound to the very place of her suffering. She wanted revenge. And her first act of vengeance, haunting the girl who tormented her in life. The Ministry of Magic tried to intervene, but all they did was confine her to Hogwarts. And so, Myrtle spent decades locked in a cycle of misery, bound to a school that never cared for her. Yet, despite her sorrow, she became more than just a ghostly nuisance. She witnessed the return of the Chamber's horror. She helped Harry Potter uncover vital secrets. She even formed an odd connection with Draco Malfoy, sharing his pain in one of his darkest hours. Myrtle's story is one of tragedy, but also of unexpected importance. She was a girl the world forgot, a soul lost in the echoes of Hogwarts' past. But was she truly doomed to wander forever? Or did she find some small measure of peace in the end? Stay with me as we dive deep into the life, death, and haunting legacy of Moaning Myrtle. The cold tiles of the girls' bathroom in Hogwarts were the last thing Myrtle Warren ever saw. A moment before, she had been crying in one of the stalls, humiliated after yet another cruel joke. Then the door creaked open. A boy's voice echoed in an unfamiliar, hissing language. And then, those eyes. Two enormous, glowing yellow eyes. She barely had time to gasp before darkness swallowed her whole. Myrtle's death was not a random tragedy. It was a carefully orchestrated act by a boy who would soon abandon his name and become something far more dangerous. Tom Riddle had spent years searching for the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets, driven by the belief that Hogwarts must be purged of Muggle-borns. When he finally succeeded, he didn't hesitate. The basilisk had its first victim. But Myrtle was not just another casualty. She was the beginning of something far worse. In that moment, Tom did more than murder a student. He crossed a line that few dared approach. Killing was not just an act of cruelty for him, it was power. He felt it, the rush, the thrill, the understanding that death could be controlled. But more than that, Myrtle's death gave him an opportunity, one that would change his path forever. There was a book, a simple, leather-bound diary that Tom carried with him at all times. It wasn't just for writing. It was a vessel, a container for something dark and forbidden. The night Myrtle died, he took that book and whispered the incantation that split his soul apart. A Horcrux was born. Dumbledore would later warn Harry, killing rips the soul apart. But Tom didn't hesitate. He had no regrets, no second thoughts. If anything, he was fascinated by the process. "I have gone further than anybody along the path that leads to immortality," he would later boast. Myrtle was proof of that. She was his first step toward becoming something more than human. Her death meant nothing to him, but it meant everything to his future. A single moment of cruelty allowed him to defy mortality itself. With his soul tethered to the diary, he had a safeguard, an anchor that ensured he could return, even if his body was destroyed. Decades later, Ginny Weasley would unknowingly stumble upon that same diary. She would pour her secrets into its pages, never realizing she was feeding a piece of Tom Riddle's very soul. The boy who had killed Myrtle lived again, whispering through ink, manipulating events from beyond the grave. Myrtle, trapped in the ghostly form forced upon her by an untimely death, never knew the full weight of what had happened that day, but her fate was inextricably tied to the rise of Voldemort. Without her, there would be no Horcrux. Without the Horcrux, there would be no Dark Lord. Tom Riddle left that bathroom with more than just a body behind him. He left a piece of his soul. And for the first time, he understood that murder was not just an act of violence. It was a doorway, one he would walk through again and again, each time becoming something less human and more monstrous. It all started with a crying girl in a